go. Oh, wait, don't come back. There we are. All right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back after the short break that we had here. And for those obviously can see, paying attention to the post earlier, I'm joined by Ben Nowak again. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm surviving. Should we talk
I feel that. I feel that, dude. It's a new year. It's supposed to be like new vibes, but it feels like it just carried over from 24. So we're rolling into this year. It's going to be a good year, I think.
I 100% firmly believe it's going to be a good year. Every year, lessons learned in life more than anything, obviously in fishing too. And we really take them to heart, at least, for me at the very end of the year. And okay, what did I screw up? For some reason, I always have to focus on that first, personally, and then fishing wise. And it's okay, well, what did I do really well with? Let's find the positives on top of that and build the negatives into the positives, balance them out, figure out what the hell we're going to do to fix things moving forward. And there's always some form of a plan in place, and it's being recalculated and reviewed and just re-implemented. I don't know how else to put it, but it's a never
for us. Yeah, dude. I think for us too, the other part is just having the winter where things start to freeze and you can't really fish. You get a new perspective and you start to come up with new plans for the year. So for me, this is my downtime. This is when I get to start to plan for the season. What do I want to do? Do I want to change the channel? Do I want to bring this in a different direction? Obviously focusing on the YouTube stuff, but then also the life stuff too, which is really cool.
Yeah. And this is the first winter in 4 winters where I haven't had my boat out yet. Not for a lack of trying per se. I went out to Champlain on December 20th. I ended up last minute, 3:00 on Thursday, went to my boss, I'm taking tomorrow off because we had a mandatory company shutdown because things are not good during the week of Christmas. So, and he was like, yeah, I don't care. So I took it off. I shot up there. It was good. I caught just about 20 pounds on 5 smallies for my best 5.
That's
I don't
crazy.
remember how many I caught. I caught my biggest Champlain smallie to date, 5.06 or 5.04. I forget. Couple right, one little over, one little under 4 pounds. It was good, but so my cover tore on the way up.
I saw that on Instagram.
Yep. So I was like, I'm not going to put that back on, even though it's supposed to snow for the whole ride home. But they only said it was going to be a quick passing thing up to an inch of snow at worst. And it ended up started at 1 p.m. Started at 11 a.m. and it snowed until I got home at 8. It took me 5 hours to get home. And when I got home, my motor was trimmed all the way up to the sky. So I shorted one of my trim switches. And I'm like, okay. It's either that or one of the relays in the outboard. And it's all right, always something. But, I asked them questions. I post on Facebook. Everybody points to me. It's one of those two things. Got to be. I'm like, okay, that's easy. Now I just got to get my boat thawed out and work on it. Well, then, now we've been hit with some really cold weather. The day after I got home from that, I got sick as a dog till Christmas. My in-laws' heat died. My dad's a master plumber. But still recovering from 2 surgeries, so he can't physically do the work. So 4 hours Christmas Day, all day the day after, and then that Friday and a half of Saturday, getting everything, trying to troubleshoot, realizing we had to replace the whole system. So that whole week was shot. I couldn't address it. And then I'm like, now it's cold. Now it's 15 degrees out. I can't get the boat dry, so I can get in there and clean it and make sure there's no water anywhere that I need to. Okay, I'll buy a carport. I bought a 24-foot carport. Buddy comes over this past Saturday. We're gonna put it up. And I'm remeasuring everything. I'm like, oh, shit, it's not going to fit. It'll fit. It'll be fine. I'm like, okay, but I got to build it around it. So we double check with 2 people measuring. It's a lot easier. And I realized that with a 24-foot long carport for a 21.5-foot boat, I was like, it'll fit, but I have to fold in the tongue, trim the motor all the way down, and turn it sideways.
Yep.
But I can't because my battery's disconnected because my motor is still constantly trying to turn on. So I'm like, okay, so I need the carport to fix the boat, but I have to fix the boat before I can build the carport around it. So
oh, what a mess. It's funny, though. My buddy Dird's got a carport, too, and he's like, okay, it fits, but just barely. He has to do the same thing. He has to fold the tongue in, put the motor down, and, just barely fits. But it's nice having it covered.
Yeah, so... Yeah. And that's why I was like, the 24 should be fine. Width-wise, it was going to be tight, but I figured I would have just enough room off the front, because the nose comes out, but then you've got that kind of little kitty corner on either side of the bow that you can work around. I'm like, that's all I need. And then same deal off the back and the motor. I got enough room, like kitty corner between the corner from, if the motor was straight out, you got like that whole square. So on either side, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I got what I need. And I was like, I'm screwed because I have to build the carport over the boat in place to ensure that it's in the right spot. Anyway, I ended up returning it because I bought it through Lowe's. It's a Shelter Logic, and no questions asked. I ended up buying the next bigger size up. So it's 2 feet wider and 4 feet longer. And I don't have to fold or trim down. It goes in. I could fold the tongue and make it like lots of room to be able to easily maneuver around the front, the back, and the sides, which I'll probably do. But I was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. So anyway, that arrived yesterday, and my buddy's coming over to help me put it up this Saturday. And then I can get my boat fixed and get back on the water.
That'll be nice. Dude, it's crazy you guys are able to fish all year. When I think about it, like, you guys aren't that much further south than us, but it's crazy you guys are able to fish most of the year.
We greatly benefit because of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And like that whole arm that goes out and up all around the bay is, you just got all the salt water coming in across the ocean, and it's like constantly windy. I've heard a couple of guys say that because it is essentially it is surrounded by salt water, that the salt content in those ponds is just a smidge higher than you'd find anywhere else. And between the wind and then also any salt, being carried by the ocean winds, kind of getting the things, that's what helps keep the ponds free of ice. I don't know if there's really any truth to that. I think it's the wind more than anything, but that's it. And, for me to get down to the Cape Cod Canal is like 2 hours. So it's really not bad. I mean, I'll go 3 hours and 30 minutes to one of my favorite launches up on Champlain for a day trip. I'll do that 20 times a year. So then, be like, oh my God, you go to the Cape for a day? I'm like, yeah, it's 2/3 the distance.
Yeah. That's crazy. As fishermen, we were kind of crazy though.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, it's either that or, it's one of those like, okay, get a good travel cover and 2 hour drive through. Granted, it's crappy driving. It's Massachusetts. Every stereotype I've ever heard about those drivers is 100% true. So the drive down is okay, but the drive home always sucks. But I get to go fishing all winter. It's like I can either sit at my house or I put in the 2 hour drive and I can keep fishing. And it's the same thing. You go to any one of like basically 20 different ponds you could put a bass boat in, and you're either chucking a jerk bait or you're dragging a Kitech or a slow flow or a hair jig. Like that's it. Yeah. You get to do that for 3 months. You're doing one of two things.
That's cool though. That's cool. We're locked in. I'm going to Tennessee next week because I'm already losing my mind. So
yeah, I mean, well, what's it been? 3 weeks since you put? No, you were out late. You were only out.
So I was out. I was done fishing around the 10th of December.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's been a month.
Yeah. The 8th of December was my last day. So it's been a month today.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that's always typically my goal. Maybe it was the 1st of December, but it was like very, very early December. I always try to get out into December. That's my goal. And then to be honest, I used these couple months to just kind of like regroup and like collect myself to get ready for the next season. So 25. So for me, it's like not a terrible thing, but there's definitely points where I start going a little bit stir crazy.
That's how I've been. That's how it was for years. Like, especially the last 2 years, 3 years before I, talk to people and learn, you can take your boat down to the Cape. And I'm like, okay, I just got to figure out, how to train the boat safely and everything and learn that. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is nice. But yeah, but before that, man, I would go stir crazy by like week 3 and I'd be like, oh my God, I got 3 more months.
Yeah. I feel that.
But, having that ability to travel makes a huge difference, for you going down to, did you say Tennessee? Yeah,
I'm going down to visit Alex and Caleb. So go hang out with those dudes. And
nice.
Hopefully catch some fish. So
yeah. I tell you what, I would love to get down to Dale Hollow. I don't know if he's in here. One of my subscribers lives really close to Dale Hollow, and every winter he hypes me up. He's like, "Dude, they're on fire." I'm like, I'd love to get.
I know. I went down there 3 years ago, I think, 2.5 years ago or something, and it was a lot of fun. It's a cool lake. I didn't really know a ton about it, and all the information that I got was like from pre-live scope era. So like you weren't doing the bait ball thing. You'd go to these long tapering points.
Yep.
And you'd find like isolated wood, and you'd find like brush piles, and you'd throw a rig or you'd throw a football jig. And so I mean, by day 3, we kind of heard about the Demiki rig bite and just kind of idle around. That wasn't our deal, though. Like, we don't want to do that.
Yeah. And that's, I wouldn't mind doing that. And I remember, when I first like got on my fishing forums, like any fishing forum, Bass Boat Central, 2009. And, trying to read up more on cold water stuff because that's where I was really struggling. And like, a lot of stuff coming out of there, like, oh, yeah, so the Demiki rig, hair jig. And I'm like, Demiki, what the hell is that? And it took me forever before I finally picked it up. And I was like, oh, this is phenomenal.
It's funny because, like, for me, I mean, I think any of us can really pick that up and become successful pretty quickly is Demiki rig fishing or even with live scope, like forward facing. But man, I'd rather do other things. Like, I know there's so many fun bites that you can get on with that, but for me, it's like, I don't know. It's not my deal. It's not my jam.
I agree with you. I always have one ready, and more often than not, when I'm fishing this time of the year, not only do I have it ready, I have it hanging over the front of the bow. So all I gotta do is like reach down and flip the bail and let it fly. I have a few friends where they'll throw like a 5-inch softbody swim bait, and they've already got their Demiki rig sitting below their feet, 30 feet down, and they'll call in their bigger fish, and they almost never eat that big softbody. But then, 5 feet from their Demiki, all of a sudden the big bait disappears, and the small ball is like, huh. Ooh, look, a tiny snack. And
I love that.
More often than not, they end up eating that instead.
That's so smart. It's so good. I mean, I know it catches so many fish, but for me, it's like just never been one of those things where that was my go-to.
Yeah, it was for me. It still kind of is. I tried to get away from it this winter because I was doing so much of it the last 3 years that I was really like, okay, it's time to continue to break out and try and find other things that are, just as good, if not better. But anytime we talk about it for this time of the year, I always make a point to bring it up because one of the best things about that, beyond its effectiveness, is that you don't need any fancy technology for it. Like literally anything for a transducer on your trolling motor, and you can do it, and you can do it really, really well. Mm-hmm. So I always make it a point to bring it up because that bridges that whole technology and salary, or however you want to put it, gap. Like as long as you got some form of electronics on the front, or hell, even off the back of your boat, you can do that, and you're going to do well.
Well, the other thing is like a jig and spoon. I mean, for many, many, many years, the jig and spoon was really popular. But like Tactical Bassin talks about it, and there's a bunch of guys now talking about it again. But like straight below the boat, jig and spoon over top of these fish and catch them.
That's one thing I've never done is try doing over the top of them. But rarely up here do I get to really see them. And especially, I would say, starting about 3 years ago, trying to get fish to bite right underneath your feet has been really tough.
Yeah, they got smart. They got
smart. They got pressured. It's
talking about that Dale Hollow thing. Like, it was incredible to see, and this was 2 years ago. Like, you would go over these bait balls, and they were enormous. Like, seriously, huge bait balls. Yep. And then you'd see like 30 fish underneath the bait. It was almost better if you got over top of them and you just jigged them.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, we got a hell of a start. We're already 15 minutes in. Let me take a moment and just say, for everybody that is here watching tonight, thank you very much. I appreciate you greatly. And I don't necessarily apologize, but I kind of apologize for the break. I needed a break. There's a lot of things going on around me that I have no control over, that I'm stressing as if I have control over them. And, real life shit, especially, I got to be careful about what I say. Anyway, I took that time off, did a lot of reflecting, and got my head back in the game. But I tell you what, like when I made that post, I was stepping away. I was already a week into it where I'm like, I'm done with all of this because I was so in my own head and so stressed out that like I wasn't enjoying doing this anymore. And like the last 2 streams I did before the break, like I had to force myself to show up. But like when I got into it, I got into it. But man, like right up until the last second before it started, I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Like, why am I forcing myself? And it was because like once it started, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I still really enjoy this. And then I was like, this is not healthy. And I need to unpack everything that's driving that. So that's what I did during the break. And, it was both good and bad because I got sick and had to help my dad with some plumbing issues at my in-laws. So like even the mandatory company shutdown, because things are pretty ugly. I didn't even really have time for myself per se. Like I just didn't have time to just figure out a way for me to unpack everything. But in a way, it was still really good because I got to be physically involved in something that really also mentally took a lot of focus to make sure we're doing it right. You know, you're replacing a whole heating system. And it's been a minute since I helped my dad do that. So he was like, it was actually ended up being one of the best possible things that could have happened for me with the way that it broke my mind free from that same just looping freaking mental conversation I was having. And I literally did not have time or energy to think about it because I was so engrossed in the physicality of putting in a whole new heating system and learn, you know, trying to remember things my dad taught me ever since I was a little kid. He's self-employed as a master plumber. And anyway, so it was good. It was phenomenal. I came out of it. I felt good. I gave it still like 2 more weeks basically. And I was like, I gave it a week and I was like, you know what? I'm like, without even thinking about it, I started thinking about all this again, everything I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to share, gearing up for the New England Fishing Expo, which I'll touch on that again in a minute. And I was like, shit, yeah, dude, like it's time to get back into it. Like I clearly still have the passion and drive because just unbidden, all of a sudden, everything was just like, yes, let's talk about this. I'm excited again. And I was like, I gotta get Ben on because I like we have talked a couple of times, and especially around the last couple of streams we did, and like there's been a lot of that for the two of us at times in the past. So like we both get each other with that between everything we love about doing this and then everything that we have, you know, family wise and career wise and trying to balance everything. You know, I got 2 young but not so young kids anymore. You've still got 2 kids, I believe.
Yeah, two kids, and it's very funny because like we're in similar stages of life, so we can kind of relate to a lot of these things, right? Because like I was thinking about it, and objectively, like I look back at what my YouTube channel did this year, and like I look at what some of these other YouTube channels are doing, and I'm like, objectively, YouTube isn't difficult. Like,
no,
if you say how to grow a YouTube channel, like if you can put out 50, I'd say 70 to 100 videos a year, right? Like that's a very, very good year. 1 to 2 videos a week. Very, very objectively easy.
Yes.
But then you start saying, okay, I got to make a video this week, or I have to make 2 videos this week because I didn't make a video last week. Like that's where the motivation starts, and like there's other life that goes on, and you don't really understand a lot of these things unless you have someone that's in that same life position as you. Like you can't bounce these ideas off of like anyone unless I have someone like you where it's like, dude, work is really tough this week, or you know what I mean? So behind the scenes, we have a lot of these similar conversations. So it's really cool.
Yep. Yeah. And it's, you know, that then the child aspect of it, which don't regret any of it one bit. And I don't mind it. You know, it's just, it's part of having kids, them growing up. You know, I'll get like I'm trying to think back to a couple of videos where like I want to sit in here, this setup and record something for a topic because I couldn't do it on the boat. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that Tuesday night because Monday night we got this thing. Well, you know, Wednesday I got the stream, but if I start at Tuesday and you know, like inadvertently one of the kids gets sick, and it's like, okay, well, that's clearly priority, you know. But and even if it's just like an hour, for me that's a significant deal. You know, I can't start till 8 usually, and then all of a sudden it's like 9:30, and I'm already exhausted after a busy day at work, and I'm like, oh damn, okay, well, you know, I'll get to it maybe Thursday night, and then Thursday comes around and something else happens. You there's another half an hour, and it's like, yeah, it's like. You visualize and you formulate and you want to get to it. And then it just all these little things pile up and it's like, yeah, I'll get to it. And then before you know it, it's like, oh shit, I talked about that 3 weeks ago.
yeah. You're like, oh man, it's March now. And I was trying to talk about, you know, wintertime fishing or whatever. So
yeah. So I tell you what, there's a couple of things I still meant to bring up before we truly get into it, but I'll tell you something funny. Like fishing jigs, everybody knows how much I love jigs. And one of the things I realized I'd never done from my own perspective is like a 101 series. And I started working on this I had to look at this, August of 2022. I made all the folders, I made all the graphics, and I recorded and edited the first video in August 23rd, 2022. And I have not made parts 2, 3, or 4 since. Like I was just going through and looking at things just a couple nights ago. Well, I was getting ready for this, getting, you know, pictures of my buddy, trying to figure out like, do I need to do anything else? And I was like, oh yeah, the jig thing, because the folder's right there. And I was like, wait, when did I start that?
Dude, that's so funny. I have like all these on my phone just tons and tons and tons of video idea notes and like series notes and things I want to do. And I'm like, okay, I want to do this video, but this would require these parts of this video. Like, am I ready to commit to this series of videos?
Right.
So that's so funny.
It's a balancing act. And, with kids in the mix, when like I want it this way. So don't get me wrong. The balancing act of prioritizing them and then trying to fit everything around it on the side and then, like kids getting older, homework gets more involved and more complicated. So you're spending more time doing that too. And it's all of a sudden you're just like, God damn, where'd the time go?
Yeah.
And then, now you hear your parents in the back of your head, just wait, everything's going to go by in a blink of an eye. I'm like, God, shit, I'm turning 40 in a week.
I feel it, dude. I feel these things.
All right. Well, we'll get properly into it. There's one last thing I want to bring up that's kind of out of context, but in context. The New England Fishing Expo is going to be in Marlborough, Mass. At the Royal Plaza Trade Center the end of this month, Friday, January 31st, starting 1 p.m. and going through the weekend, so ending Sunday, February 2nd. I will be there along with my buddy DJ and then quite a few other guys from the Big Bass Streams and Defiant crew. We'll have Sean Place, Brandon Exner, Tommy, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head. I think I already said DJ, 3D Fishing. I've had him on here a number of times, and actually not too long ago either. And there is Sean Miller is going to be there kind of in and out of the booths to help out, but he's also going to be there with Douglas Fishing. Douglas will be in a booth, double booth directly across from us. And then inside of our booth, it's going to be a 10 by 30, just like last year. ReelNorthernBass, Big Bass Streams, and Defiant. But then we also have BYUSA, which, one second on that. So BYUSA and then Black Spirit Swimbaits are also getting folded in all in. So we are going to have a ton of stuff for swimbait stuff and some specialty terminal tackle. If you guys are interested, I will have apparel. I'll have new hoodies and 2 different flannels and limited quantities on these, by the way. I lightly touched upon the fact things are not great work-wise. So I financially was scared to take a huge investment into this like I have in years past. So I went as light but worthwhile as I could. I tried to find a balance with it. It still cost me a pretty chunk of money, but I'm just trying to like mitigate risk as much as I can while still, making it all worthwhile for everyone. But yeah, the flannels came out awesome. They're independent brand. So they're high quality flannel. I don't ever get anything cheap because I get stuff that I want to wear and it's got to feel good and look good and hold up long term. So I don't know the pricing is going to be on it, but yet I finalized all the orders and the proofs and everything earlier this week. So we'll have it all in time for that. Did I just see somebody? No. Okay. I thought somebody said flipping contest. I don't know. I don't think we're going to do the flipping contest, not without Andrew to help manage that, or Dennis. And I don't think Dennis is going to be there. I don't even know when he's coming back to the stream, to be honest. He's tied up with work definitively through March. So I don't know. I'm just kind of letting him be so he can get that done and keep it, his focus on that and family and everything. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that was the big thing. Just want to talk about the New England Fishing Expo because that one's going to be good. Last year was phenomenal. This year I expect, actually, no, I saw the vendor list last night and there's going to be a few more than there were last year. I'm signed up for 3 seminars. So I'll be up on the hog trough twice and at the seminar stage once, which I'm actually really excited for. I enjoy doing that. And yeah, man, it'll be good. So hopefully we'll see you all guys there. You can see the new banner that I got in the works that'll eventually end up on the wall behind me too, 4x10. So we're kind of going all out on that, which is funny. I just said, I don't want to spend a lot of money for this, but here I am. Trying to balance it all. It's fine.
Did we get a little preview? What are your seminars going to be about? Do you have the dialed in yet? Or
I do. And you know what? I don't want to speak incorrectly. So let me find the email that I sent to Dan just the other night. Okay, so one of these is kind of similar to ones I've done in the past, but I'm trying to be much more specific on this. So for tank demo, the hog trough would be my best ice out baits. And that one like really intrigued me because then like there's a number of different ways I can go about that to really show off the bait. So I'm excited for that. Big bass producing baits, which is working title. I'm not really sure how else I would want to phrase that while keeping it short. And that was another one that came to mind because we did that for a topic on the stream not too long ago. And, I was thinking about it. I was like, damn, that actually, I'm not sure if anybody's really covered something like that at the New England show. So I was like, I'm going to sign myself up for that because that sounds good. And then breaking down big water, that's going to be up on the seminar stage. So I'll put up a little PowerPoint and everything and kind of go through it. I've done a topic like that. I've done like 2 or 3 videos on, and that's like setting up the GoPros just right. So I'm behind the driver's seat, and it's like a lot of talking about screen time and explaining what I'm seeing between, you know, mapping and then actual measuring between, or, you know, reading between down imaging, sonar, down imaging, and side scan, a little splash of 360 and stuff like that, and here and there. But, you know, then I almost like never get to show fishing in it, but it's still, it's like something that I really love, because my God, you get to get really technical in that, or at least I'd like to get very technical with it. So very, very detail oriented topic like that, and something I love to talk about. So that's the plan.
What's cool about that too is like you're able to be interactive. So like people have questions, like you can dive into it and explain. Like, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, and it's funny you say that because last year, or was it the year before? I think it was the year. No, it was last year. No, it was the year before, because I didn't do the New Hampshire show last year because I had to travel for work, so I missed it. It was in London. But the year before, trying to figure out topics, and, you know, Andrew still being on board, he was trying to help me brainstorm, and he was like, you should do like an open topic session. And I was like, oh, no, that could actually be really cool. Like, I don't know, trying to convey that in a way for people at the show to understand might be a little bit difficult for them to truly understand like the value of that. But that's one of my favorite things to do for the stream. You know, we try to do it once every 6 to 8 episodes, where it's like, come in and ask us anything. So when we're very topic specific, there's something that someone might think about that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and it gets missed because I'm barely have time to capture all of like the on topic questions. So I was like, damn, that'd actually be really cool if you go to a fishing expo and go talk to somebody, you know, as knowledgeable as myself or more knowledgeable, which is plenty of people there in that case, most of them. And, you know, and just to like literally anything you could think of bass fishing related, just shoot that question off instead of being there to hear, you know, a half an hour to an hour session on something really specific. Like, dude, literally ask me anything. Like, that would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be really
cool.
How
successful it would be.
I think it'd be really cool.
I might talk to Dan about it again. You know what? Unless Dan's here, I haven't looked. I'll shoot him a text and run that idea by him. But I thought that would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah. And then worst case scenario, if it doesn't pan out, then I get my hour back. Yeah. I think it would be good for like a half an hour session. If I could squeeze that in somewhere like kind of peak traffic time, and then, you know, I may only get like 10 to 15 people that come in and take advantage of it, but, you know, that could be a recurring thing that could be really cool. And then actually, ideally, that would be something that I would do with like a panel of people.
Yeah, you have like 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a bass show, or if it's like a certain, like the bass open forum session or bass whatever, and you have like 4 or 5 bass guys or 5 or 6 bass guys up there. And then they could do one for walleye fishing and do one for whatever. I don't know if you guys have a bunch of ice fishermen there, but
yeah, no, a lot of ice fishermen, a lot of trout guys. Not much walleye. There's very little walleye in New Hampshire, Maine, Mass. Like, I don't think there's really anywhere in any of those places except for the Connecticut River on the New Hampshire-Vermont border. You really got to get into Vermont and work your way west before you get into a lot more walleye, which is kind of sad. New Hampshire's really well geared up to accommodate that fish, and I would be so happy if they did. Yeah. But we're big on our trout, so I get it. Yeah. I tell you what, so, oh my God, what's his name? It's not Trey McKinney, it's the other younger kid. Trent? One of the elites.
Tyler Williams?
No, Tyler Williams is going to be there. I remember his name. Oh my God, what's his name? It's on the tip of my friggin' tongue.
JT Kenny. Or JT Tompkins.
No, there was another guy. Any fishing. Tell me he's got him up on the front page. One of the Strike King guys. I know he has him on here.
John
so
Garrett.
Kyle Patrick's going to be there. Tim Doobie's going to be there. Tyler Williams, Tristan McCormick. I don't know why I couldn't remember.
Oh, there's a lot of big names in that show then.
Yeah. So like, how cool would it be? Yeah, there you go, Dan. Thank you, Tristan McCormick. How cool would it be to have myself to help facilitate it, and then all those guys, right? Kyle Patrick, Tristan, Tim Doobie, Tyler Williams, like have all those guys up there for that like hour-long session of like ask us anything. There is not a single question somebody could ask that one of the 5, 6 of us couldn't answer that.
Yeah, that would be so cool.
Dan, you let me know what you think about that. We'll make it happen. Okay, we've really gone off. I didn't even tell what people. Oh yeah, 2024 season recap. I was like, did I even tell people what the hell we were doing tonight?
Yeah, I love it. I love this path. It just is like it kind of leads us there.
Yeah, we get there eventually. Alec, best loon snagging techniques. Anything that involves lead, buddy. We got too many of them.
Loons are nuts, dude. Loons are the scariest bird on the water.
Dude, yeah, they're like, what was it? We went up to a new place in Maine this year, and we went all the way up to the northern end. Earlier in the day, we found one patch of cabbage, like pond cabbage, and just crushed them really quick. And we're like, and then the bite died. And was like, all right, cool, let's go look for that. 3 hours later, we're going all the way up the top around the north end, and we're just kind of Andrew's on the trolling motor going high, and all of a sudden he's like, "Uh-oh, it's real shallow. Now we're in a foot of water. We can't turn around. Like there's one little skinny channel. It's a foot and a half." I'm like, just plow on. He's like, "All right, well we're coming up on a loon and her baby," and they weren't moving. And I'm like, he's like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Don't stop. I want to keep momentum going through here. They'll move." Well, they didn't move, and then next thing I know, they both go under like a couple feet from the boat, and Mom scoots out to the side, and he just troll motor up out of the water, and he's like, "Where'd the baby go?" And we're floating for like 30 seconds. And I'm like, I have no idea where this thing went. And so then he was like, all right, he puts the trolling motor back down. I go to the back of the boat, stand by the motor, and just out of my like little peripheral, I catch something. And right against the back of the transom and the jack plate, that little baby loon is just chilling right there. And it looks up at me. It's just like paddling around like crazy. But it never moved. I'm like, what are you doing?
No.
And then Mom came over like 5 feet off the boat, and she was pissed. And I was like, please do not attack.
When they chase your lure on live scope, like you see him go down, and then you see him in the water where your jerk bait's in the water, you could just see him.
And they're fast as hell.
Oh, they're so fast.
I don't even think with an 8-5 to 1 could you get it back to the boat quicker than they could get to it. There's a good reason why they catch so many fish. They are hella fast underwater.
That's exactly right.
But it was pretty funny. So you know what? Let's get let's actually get into it. This was fun.
Yeah.
2024 recap. I kind of already lightly covered mine. Not fishing goals wise, kind of personal wise, and I am excited for everything that I'm putting into place for a better 2025, one way or another. I'll leave it at that. One way or another, and I'm busting my ass to make things better for myself. I'm gonna have more time to fish for 2025 than I did last year. And fishing goals wise, I'll cover that later. But for you, like I know when we talked early in 2024, you had made a point, like you were really kind of thinking bigger picture and big time goals for what you were hoping to accomplish with the channel and everything. So how'd it go?
The channel was, it was what it was. So one of my big goals last year was just kind of get back to enjoying fishing. I sold the Phoenix in 23. I bought the Champion. I just wanted to kind of reset my mindset towards fishing. And 24 was probably my most fun year, just going out and catching fish. So it was a lot of fun. Big fish wise, in the spring, didn't really get off to a crazy hot start. I caught some big largemouth and had a pretty decent spring, but really in the fall, things started to come together. And then I focused a ton on tournaments. I really had this concept last year of trying to sell this Michigan Bass Nation team series to sponsors and do a lot of content around the tournaments. But what I realized is the amount of effort that goes into fishing tournaments, especially if you want to do well. Because my goal was to prove to myself that I could you hear it a lot as YouTube guys, you're a YouTube guy. You can catch them when no one's watching. Oh, good job winning the YouTube. All the trash talk that is sports, right? Sports in general.
Yep.
And so I wanted to prove to myself, dude, I fish YouTube, but I can hammer them. And so went out, put a ton of emphasis on the tournaments, practiced an incredible amount this year, a ton. And you can't really make content around pre-practice because you don't want to put that out and have people figure out what you're doing. And you can't put out content and you can't show pictures and you can't do this and you can't do that. And so the amount of content I came out with was way, way, way lower than what I had wanted to.
Yep.
But we accomplished the goal. We won Team of the Year. We did what I wanted to do. And now I'm okay, that was fun. I'm going to go back to just fun fishing. So
yeah,
it was a great year. I had a ton of fun. But for the channel, really this year is going to be the year I focus back on that.
Yep. Nice. And to touch on that tournament, I've gotten not a ton, but enough comments like that, like, oh, you're just cool, you didn't do it in a tournament. It's like, okay, but like before I had YouTube, I did do it in a tournament like a number of times, but that was when I was not active on social media, so nobody cares. And which is kind of funny, right? Like, out of one side of their mouth, it's, oh, you didn't do it in a tournament. It's like, okay, well, I did back then. You didn't post on social media. It's like, well, what the fuck? Pick a side of the aisle.
And there's so much ego and pride, right? Like, it's so much ego and pride. I'm too competitive. I grew up playing sports and whatever. And so, like, when you hear that, it starts to get in your brain a little bit. And you're like, man, I know I'm good enough, but I just want to prove it to myself again.
Right.
So I did. It was fun. Caught some fish.
I had a very up and down season for the few tournaments that I did, and I started off with an abysmal showing of the BFL on Champlain. Not in the sense of like I just completely whiffed, but boy, dude, that wind was honking out of the south, and the spot I had was stacked, and I must have broke off 20 some odd fish, and it was just a boneheaded thing where like I should have just left the lighter leader line and just taking a chance, retied on something like 15 or 18 pound, and just because I couldn't, dude, it was a half ounce of water sniper, and trying to cast it into the wind and working it down with the current, even with a half ounce sniper, only in 20 feet of water, it was pulling my jig all the way towards me. It was just, like that thing was humming along the bottom, and I never felt it. And by the time I could reel in and feel it, it was already at my feet. I'm like, holy Christ. So like I had to go downwind against current. Yeah. And that was the only way, like it would stay on the bottom, but it, without moving and keep light tension on it. But I still couldn't feel those fish. So they were hitting it and wrapping around the boulders I was fishing around. I think I broke off like 20 fish. So it's just bad execution on my part. But I didn't feel so bad. So it's like, all right, cool. Like I was in them. Like there was a chance at least. It's not like I didn't catch anything or didn't get a single bite. But then I kind of redeemed myself later with the New Hampshire Bass Nation State Team Qualifying Tournament, fishing against there were 23 boats, and all those guys are hammers. Like they are good. They have proven themselves through tournaments for years, and finished 7th in that. So I made state team my first shot at it, which was very exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's some highs, some lows, nothing overly great, but I didn't do abysmal. So there's that.
Yeah. No, that's great though. Like for me, it was like the amount that you learn fishing tournaments is so much, and tournament fishing in general is so much different than like fun fishing or YouTube, like filming videos or whatever. So no, I mean, sounds like it was a good year for you too.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny because I know I had said it to you at the beginning where like going into the tail end of 2023 and for 2024, I'm like, this is going to be the year that like I finally get it done. I'm not going to try and rely on anybody like I had been in years past to help me make content. I'm just going to do it 100% myself and let everything else be what it is. And then that's when work really ramped up for me until basically like middle of June. And I had no time. I have been busy at this place since I started here. But that stretch from basically beginning of January until middle of June for 2024 was the busiest I've ever been in my life for work. Worked the most hours I've ever worked. Did a lot more travel than I've ever done, and it was insane. And I had nothing left to give to the channel. And then that completely derailed everything about how I felt about everything for the rest of the year, and that left me with what ended up being, content creation wise, the worst year I've ever had on this. I created nothing, long form, short form, like all of it combined. Like I did next to nothing this year. And when I really go back, if it wasn't for the live streams, like I would literally have nothing. I think I created 20, not even that. I think I created 15 like real videos this season, that's bad. Like just a hair over one a month. And if the goal is the growth of the channel, then that's just abysmal. You may as well not be doing anything almost at that point. Like it's still, anything's better than nothing, but this game, this algorithm, it feeds off of volume and quality too, but volume is the one of the biggest drivers to help grow. So, and that's what I was trying to go for. And I remember talking to my wife and a couple of my closest friends, and I may have said the same thing to you. And I was like, you know what? Since day one doing this, and it still is, it's just been a fun thing. Never once did it cross my mind that this could potentially make any sort of money. For the record, anybody's curious, this channel makes about $160 a month, and I have about $170. No, thanks to StreamYard going up, I now have $180 in cost per month, so I'm still net negative. So with that in mind, like the idea of this ever becoming like a true money-making enterprise for me with how small I am, it was just it never crossed my mind. And that's not why I started anyway. I just needed something for a creative outlet, and it grew as a result from however it is I do what I do. So I had it in my head, like I said to my wife, a couple of my friends, I think I said it to you beginning of 24, was like, you know what? Like, what if I actually took it seriously? In the sense of, what if I viewed it as like, okay, if I really put in the effort, maybe there can be like exponential success from this. And whatever that means, like, so be it. Whether it was money or just growth or just views, like whatever that case is, like, F it. It could be any or all of those things. Like, let's just take it seriously, which I've never done. I always have, but never in the sense of like, hell yeah, let's do whatever we can to grow. Let's tackle it from that perspective for once. And it's just really hard to explain it in any other way, which is why I'm fumbling over my words. But that was the goal. And dude,
well, this is
the direction.
This is where we talk about objectively, YouTube isn't hard, right? Like objectively, it's not difficult. We know exactly what we need to do.
Yeah.
It's just actually finding the time and ability to actually execute on that plan, right? Which is like, if you post 75 to 100 videos a year, which is 1 to 2 videos a week,
yep,
like you can expect growth, especially if every single piece of content is ultra consistent. Your thumbnail's consistent, your content's consistent. I mean, there's a kid, Nathan Quinns. Him and I have been talking back and forth on Instagram for the last couple of years. The dude grew from like nothing to 50,000 subs. He just posted a video 2 days ago that's got a couple days ago that's got 100,000 views. And I started looking at it and I'm like, what really is his key juice, right? And it's the fact that for 2 to 3 years he has been consistent. Every single 2 days he's got a video coming out that looks exactly the same, and he just keeps posting. We know it's not hard,
right?
Or no, let me rephrase. We know how to do it. There's no real secret sauce. It's just the actual execution of it. I'm in the same boat. We're in the same boat.
Yeah, and it's the time that's the biggest thing, like you said. Nothing. It is really, really low floor and really, really high ceiling to get into this and be successful. Like, there's a wide range for where you can be inside of there and still be successful at this. But the most common and consistent thing is a lot of time to put into it. And again, none of it's hard. It's just sometimes it can be very tedious. And it gets exponentially harder to find that kind of time to jump into this as, you grow family, your career starts getting, busier, you get a higher level of position that requires more of your time and more of your effort, more of your focus. Your kids get older. There's more challenges that come with that. You free up some challenges from having infants to, swapping those out for even different challenges, with like the brought up homework. Now I'm sitting here trying to remember 7th grade algebra. I'm like, I don't remember how to do this. I got to go back and learn it before I can help you. It's just weird things like that. I feel it,
yeah.
And before you know it, it's like, okay, I've got 2 hours today to get 10 hours of effort done. All right, let's go to bed.
Yeah, I mean, that's real.
Yeah. So it was, I don't know. There's a great many a thing that I regret. But the one thing I don't regret from this year is that when things all started colliding and coming together, and I was like, I gotta sacrifice something. I never sacrificed the family this year. And in years past, I did. I would sacrifice time more often than I should have. And there's no other way to put it. So I could focus on this, and the growth and the amount of videos I created and everything reflected that. But then this year, just with everything, it was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sacrifice there anymore. And I really didn't this year. There's a couple of instances where I was like, yeah, you know what? Sorry, I'm going to go, work on this because I really want to. But otherwise, 95% of the rest of the time, it was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do it because I'm going to help them. And that's, I don't regret it. I don't regret it one bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. I literally can think of these exact moments that you're talking about as you're kind of having this conversation, as we're having this conversation. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to know too that I'm not the only one. So I think
No,
there's probably a
I'd
lot
be
of people
curious.
in the comments, like over in the comments, I can probably relate whether they're a content creator or just have other things they enjoy doing. I can kind of relate to some of the things we're saying, right? Like I know mainstream fishing, Jermaine over there, he is he's in the same boat as we are.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I know a lot of people, friends, and then people I've met through fishing. When Andrew moved, I've lost count of how many people have asked to come fishing with me. So like I'll be like, okay, well Andrew's gone, back the boat's empty. So all right, I'm just reaching out to like a bunch of people, and I've had a bunch of different people in my boat since September, sometime in September, whenever it was Andrew left, in the middle of September, somewhere in there. And and a lot of them same deal, like, oh man, I really wish I'd love to be able to chase this a little bit more, but with the family and the job and everything. And it's like we all get it. We all get it, for those of us that are in that boat. And then I run in every once in a while, I run into one of the single gentlemen that are probably 10 years younger than me. They're like, oh yeah, I went fishing 4 times this week. I was like, I remember when I could do that.
dude, yep, I feel it. I feel it. Life was hard before I had kids, and then I realized life was actually hard when you have kids.
Yeah, that's very well put.
Man. So, I mean, kind of like, what were your biggest achievements then in 24? Like, what are you most proud of? You kind of gave us the rundown there, but like just kind of finding priorities and really, really, being proud of that. I think that's something I'm proud of too.
Yeah, and that's, like I eventually got to a point where I realized I was being taken advantage of. And, if there's someone listening in on this, that's probably going to insult them. But, you look at it factually, everything that I've done, and then the complete lack of reward, I was taken advantage of. There's no other way to put it. And because of that, like I totally learned, like, no, man, I got foot down. And that's when I started setting boundaries that I never knew how to set before without feeling weird or guilty about it, and realize that, like, no, I should not feel guilty about this. So it was this combination of a couple of things. And for me, it's never straightforward. It's never like one clear cut and dry thing. For me, it's always this, little things that pile up into one kind of bigger group of things. And, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to be comfortable with that, learning the true value of my time and my expertise, my knowledge, my strengths, my weaknesses, both in skill sets and then how I handle myself professionally, like all those things. Like, and having this just like the next great awakening of awareness of everything of that in my life. And then more importantly, implementing on it. That's something I've sucked at. I've had realizations of things like that to different degrees in the past, but implementing on the lessons I learned was something that I continuously failed at. And the second half of this year, like I definitely implemented. So that was the personal level. That was huge. For fishing, what am I proud of? The only thing I'm proud of is those 4 magical days I had up on the Great Lakes in early May. And I got to do everything. I got Lake Erie for a day, and we get to fish the Niagara River. Even though we didn't catch anything there, it was just cool experiencing that, because that was current like nothing I've ever experienced. It's like 4 miles an hour that you're getting, just everything's off, and you're just going with the current. You got a 3/4 ounce weight behind you. You're just holding on for dear life, and all of a sudden rod just goes, whew, and then tink. Yep, okay, that was a rock. Retie, bomb it back out, repeat, and then you feel do 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 do, and then fish had it for a second and gone. And I was like, okay, that was cool. We didn't catch anything else, but like, it was just a cool experience. And then the next day, trying to go back out there, it just wasn't going to happen. It was way too dangerous. And we were in a Lund Pro V 2075 too, and the water was coming into that. Yeah. So, okay, meet my buddy up at the St. Lawrence a day earlier than I thought it was gonna. First cast, catch a 7-pound 5 ounce. I've been chasing that fish my entire life, but especially the last 5 years of going up there, I couldn't even break 5 pounds up there. My biggest prior to that 7 on Lake Ontario or the St. Lawrence River was 4.8 something. That was 2 years ago. So I was like really frustrated with going up there. Like, I've caught 5s everywhere else, but I can't do it on one of the best smallmouth fisheries in the world. And then my first cast, I catch a 7.5, which is bigger than my buddies who's been fishing up there for 20 years. It's like, and then I caught another 7. Dude, I open water sniper. I just we got there, and that was one of those like everything just worked. The universe told me what to do, and it was just to make that decision with Ryan. Okay, never mind. Like we're done, dude. Sorry, it didn't work out. I'm leaving, and just hauling ass up to that river. Call my buddy, half an hour out. Make sure you're ready because when I get in, I'm gonna grab my rods, my tackle bag, throw them in your truck, and we're leaving. And I did exactly that. Wasted maybe all of a minute and a half when I got there. On the water, it was like, nope, not taking GoPros, not setting them up. I mean, into the water as fast as we could, right over to the first spot. And like as he's trying to get up and set up the trolling motor, fire out that cast, and then 10 seconds later, 7.5. Like so many things insane. I feel like I had to come together for decisions being made for that to happen. And if I had skipped any one step along the way, that fish wouldn't have been there.
Isn't that crazy? Just the tiny, tiny, tiny magical differences.
Yep. And yeah, it was. So anyway, it was that was honestly, people are going to call me crazy. That was 1B to my 1A of my highlights for this year. Because I mean, my personal best 5 up there went 32 and change on the last day we were there, which was just dumb. And then combined with smallmouth freaks, we had almost 34 pounds. It was like 33 and a half or 33 and 2/3, something like that. I forget. It was like just one of those truly magical days. And as great as that was, number of 6s, tons of 5s. My greatest accomplishment was my continued big smallmouth success in New Hampshire and Vermont. And my best 5 this year went like 26 and change. I caught a 5.69 smallie in New Hampshire the same day that Andrew's nephew caught that 8.14 largie. He caught a 5.5, the 8.14, and then I got the 5.69 smallie, like all within a couple of hours of each other at this tiny pond. And like, so that was my biggest out of New England, not including the Northeast. So, to include the St. Lawrence and Lake Ontario, New England, that was my biggest. And I had quite a few others over 5 pounds. Like I caught a 4.96 smallie in Champlain at the STQT, and then I caught that 5.06, 5.04, whatever it was. I caught a couple over 5 in New Hampshire now that I think about it. So it was like, even if you throw out everything I did in the Great Lakes in those 4 days, this was by far the best smallmouth fishing season I've had in New England ever. So I was proud of that. Largemouth,
yeah. Yeah, you're like, yes, fishing this year, not really proud of. No, I understand what you're saying though. Like from a quantity of days on the water and quality of like those days, yeah. But yeah, dude, you had some wild trips then. Like you had a great like quality year.
Yeah, quality, definitely smallmouth. Like it was good. And then like I got everywhere. I traveled. I got to fish. Not Cayuga, the other Oneida, which was supposed to do BFL there this year, and that got canceled because of wind. But then when we went up, we did the Rumble and the River tournament, so you even able to go up and do that 1-day tournament for Doc's Tackle on the St. Lawrence, and we did not do good. It's sad when you have 21 pounds of smallmouth and you're in like 25th place. Like
yeah, you're like, well, might as well dump them.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Going up to do that, and then the wind shifted, so we couldn't even go out there the next day. So it was like, screw it, let's go down to Oneida. It's not gonna be windy down there, and so I got to fish Erie for the first time. I got to fish Oneida for the first time. I went up to Maine and fished a couple of new spots. I got back down to Connecticut and fished a couple of spots I never fished. And then like the wheels fell off the bus for the second half of the year, and I would say for the majority of the season, where. And I'm finally remembering to turn it back to your point about getting away from tournament fishing and just going out and finding fun in it again. I was so stressed and in my head this year that I got away from one of the things that I feel makes me a better angler. And I stopped traveling as much. I was traveling, but not really. I was going back to the same big, far away places over and over again. And I was fishing history too much, but that was intentional because I was so stressed and like my head wasn't in it in any way for the majority of the year that I'm like, I don't want to think. I just want to go out and cast and know that there's going to be fish there because I've been there every year for the last 5 years, and they weren't there. And the vast majority of cases, so fishing history just kicked my ass. And
yeah, not only
Yeah, go ahead.
in those situations, like not only typically are they not there, but like especially when you're not finding the enjoyment in it, you start to like not enjoy the trip, and then you want to go home early. And it's just like it compounds, it snowballs, right? Like all the
Huge.
good decisions you would be making. I'll remember this day forever. Joe LaBarbera, he's over in the comments, but he came up and fished with me after Saginaw Bay. I think they were up here. Dude, so we went up to this special lake, and like typically it's a crazy, crazy smallmouth fishery. Like not a ton of bites, but you get really, really good ones. Well, like it all fell apart. Like first half hour of the day, we caught a 5 pounder on the top water, and
Yep.
then like we caught one on live scope, and then I'm like, dude, I don't know what's happening, but like the wheels are falling off the bus. I'm like, let's just go dock fish just for a little bit. Like we just got to dock fish, and then like because we were enjoying our time together and having fun with it, like we went up dock fishing, caught some fish, and it just like saved the day. But having that right mindset, and that was like my biggest thing this year, is like just enjoy fishing. Like just go out and enjoy fishing. Don't think about, whatever might be on your mind that day, and just enjoy it, and you make good decisions, and then that just starts to snowball and roll and roll and roll.
Yep. Yeah, and that was something I got away from this year. Like I couldn't get back to, is a better way to put it. I just got in my own way, and I was my own worst enemy this year. And especially everything with just where I was work wise, and then still, losing Andrew sucked. There's no other way to put that too. He's my best friend. He's my little brother, basically. We've been fishing together every friggin' weekend since 2015, going on almost 10 years. Maybe since 2014 is when it really started. And like that was just a constant. And like even on a really bad day, we still always had a blast because we just always enjoyed our company with each other. And then on top of that, we were both just sucking at fishing because neither one of us had our head in it. I was stressed between work and then knowing that he was leaving eventually anyway. And he was stressed because he was making such a huge life change. And he's admitted it point blank, he's just not comfortable with change. And he knew what he was trying to force himself, but for the betterment of himself. And it's just like everything snowballed, and I made a bigger mess of things than I needed to on top of that. So I kind of lost how to just enjoy fishing.
Yeah.
I guess, which is a good way for us to segue to 2025. And I can keep mine brief because of all of that I just said. I still really want to chase tournaments because, like, fuck everybody else. I don't give a shit what people say anymore. I've proven what I can do time and time again, and I don't know who these people are. Like, I literally don't. I know like my 8 like really close friends, and I don't give a shit about anybody else. So I want to chase tournaments because I'm addicted to it, man. I love tournament fishing. I'm hyper competitive, but like I get just be competitive with the water and not worry about anybody else. I don't give a shit about anybody else. I only care about where I fished and how I performed. And so I was hemming and hawing what to do with everything, and eventually settled in on the ABA series, the top 150 solo series. What I really wanted to do, be perfect. Cayuga, Champlain, and Oneida, and all those places I can do pretty damn close to day trips. Champlain would have been easy. It's Ticonderoga again, so like wouldn't have to lose any work time, no vacation time for it. Oneida burned very little vacation time. Cayuga would require a little bit of vacation time just for like getting out there and scouting early season before the grass comes up, find all the hard spots, and then like get out there for the tournament, et cetera, et cetera. And I was really excited for that. And then I thought back to this year and what did I get away from that was making me not only a better angler but really enjoying everything. And it was the traveling. It was the constantly forcing myself on a regular basis to new bodies of water I'd never been to. In the vast majority of those instances, I knew nothing about it other than what I could find from the depth chart and satellite images. And whatever the state has for a fish report on it, which basically tells you what the forage is, and like that's it. That's my starting point. And man, getting back into that habit, I was like, I should just do that. And then I want to go back up to the St. Lawrence and for the first week of May for the end of the Canadian early season opener. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? F the tournaments. I'm going to do this instead. So I just completely canceled any and all travel plans I had for every tournament. with the exception of the New Hampshire Bass Nation STQT. I'm still going to do that because it's on Winnipesaukee this year. It's an hour and 20 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
And that's a body of water that is like, I could go there 20 times in a row and it would be like fishing a new body of water for me. Because even though I started fishing there in 2009 and I started fishing Champlain in 2020, I have fished Champlain probably 5 times more than I have Winnipesaukee. And Champlain's more than twice the drive, but Champlain's worth it. Winnie, when I had a smaller boat, was awful because it's got some of the worst boat traffic you could imagine in like the entirety of New England. Like, it's bad. So especially being only able to fish on Sundays, I've got the absolute worst of the boat traffic, and then the traffic driving home is a nightmare. So I've been staying away from it, but now I get that Z21. Like, it doesn't matter what it is out there, I can handle it. And I'll just deal with it. At least makes half of it nothing I have to worry about. So I want to spend more time out there too. And I'm like, and then, I can bring my kids out a lot more often, which would be huge because I'm not asking them to sit in the truck for 3 hours to go out there and fish for 8 hours. And at least this way I'd be like, you know what, we'll go for an hour and 15. And if it's brutal, we only have another hour and 15 to get home. And, like, I bring them home. I go back out somewhere local again and make them do whatever I want. So, like, that's the plan. I'm getting back to that. I'm doing one tournament. Other than that, I'm done with it for next year. I'm going to take it off for a year, and then I'll go back into 2026 and reassess if I want to. I still would love to do a whole trail like you did. Like, I've been dying to do that, and I want to do a solo series. I don't want to do a team one if I can help it. Like, I want to prove to myself that, like, I can figure it out on the fly, which is something I love doing. That's 2025 is just doing that, but exploring. I'm giving up on Vermont a little bit, except for like the Northeast Kingdom area, which there's a bunch of places up there I haven't even been to. I haven't even been to that corner of the state yet, but I want to get to Maine a lot more. There's a handful of places in Connecticut I haven't been to yet that I want to do early season when you're allowed to be there before they close it to residents only, during peak summer months. There's thousands of lakes in Maine that you can fish that I would love to get to. And, if I give myself 3.5 hour window of drive time, I've probably got 500 ponds I can go fish. So, like, there's the amount of new untapped water I can go and explore and really keep the skill set sharp, figuring it out on the fly. It'll take me decades. It'll literally take me the rest of my life before I can scratch the surface on any of that.
It's so cool though. Like, that for me is what makes it a lot of fun, is like exploring those like sneaky lakes or the little small ponds or that's what I enjoy too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as much fun as I had tournament fishing this year, like, it's a different mindset. You got to go practice. You got to go pre-practice, like, especially if you want to do well. Like, it's a very different mindset, and you learn a lot very, very quickly, but the stakes are a lot higher. Like, so you can't fish quite as free and everything else. So, yeah, I mean, my goals are pretty similar for 25. I'm not doing any tournaments other than maybe like a Thursday nighter, like just hop in those or whatever. But
yeah.
No one knows this. I'm looking into doing inland lake guiding. So, like, you can do inland lake guide trips without a captain's license. So I'm looking into doing that because kind of the direction I want to eventually take the channel in is focusing more so on the educational piece. Like, when I do trips and when I do tournaments, like, they do okay, but like, I really want to get into like the educational, like, this is how you break down a body of water, this is how you fish a lure, this is how you, like, the very educational. So that kind of feeds into it. Plus, this is another opportunity for me to make content on top of educating people. So potentially doing some guiding and just having fun.
I will tell you, doing that form of guiding, especially like where you're clearly communicating that up front, and I guarantee you the vast majority of your clients are going to be subscribers, which is what it's been my case. And I haven't done a ton of it, but in every instance, everybody I've taken out has been a subscriber, and they're literally coming out for what essentially is the video experience. Not that they're coming out to be in the video, they're coming out to get the whole in-person all day thing that we can whittle down into a 15 to 20 minute video, and they want to know everything, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions, and they want you to fish with them in almost every case. I think I had 2 people this year where I think they were not really keen on it, which is fine. Like, you can't make everybody happy everything that you do, and I don't begrudge the way that they you know, so it's whatever, you know, I do the best I can to make the most of it for them. But it's really hard when coaching high school team. Like, I love it. It's great. But dude, being in a boat all day and not casting, I can't do it. So like me fishing, I need to, and it's going to help me better, you know, show and demonstrate and explain what it is that I'm trying to teach you along the way as it is too. And I know when to reel it in a little bit. If all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got like 20 and he's got none. Like I never let it get that bad. It's like, okay, I got 5 and they got none. All right. So like now it's like rod's down. We're going to just explain everything, get you up front. Like, and I let them try to have the front as much as possible anyway. But, you know, then just finding a balance with it. And I would say the vast majority of people I've taken out have been very happy with that approach. And they've learned a lot. Like that one thing I absolutely know for a fact. They've all said the same thing. They've all learned a lot from it. So
that's the goal, right? Is make it an educational trip and like say, okay, what do you want to learn? Like we have enough lakes around here where I can teach them a lot of different things. And I could even do trophy trips where like we go to these trophy lakes and like target giant fish. But for the most part, it's not about going out and trying to catch like 5 to 6 pounders. Like it's about going out and learning a skill, a technique, how to use perspective, how to use forward. Like what am I looking for to pattern fish in the pre-spawn? Like all of these specific techniques and getting someone on the water where I can really break it down to them and like show them how to do it and then give them the opportunity to kind of like, okay, here's the lake. Like, what are we looking for? Where do you want to go? Like really try to focus in on the educational piece. And one thing Joe LaBarbera says was like the non-compete for ensuring that people don't start guiding those lakes. Like for me, if I'm doing a trophy trip, like if I'm taking someone out to go to like one of the nice sneaky lakes or like a really, really phenomenal body of water, that'll be one of those things where I'm like, okay, well, a lot of the local guides do this anyway. They don't take local residents. So like if you're from Michigan, I'm not taking you to my trophy lake, like to go out and catch trophy fish. Like we'll go up, you can come and do an educational trip. We'll go to a lake. We'll teach a technique. We'll go in and do that kind of stuff. But like, it's very different sort of mindset than those trophy lakes.
Yep. Yeah, no, and that's a good call on that. That's something I kind of regret early on doing some guiding trips is I, you know, took a couple of people to one lake in particular that I deeply regret doing that because the pressure exploded since then. But, you know, that's life, right?
You live and you learn, right? Like,
yep.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure I'm going to do much of that next year. Like as much as I enjoyed it, I need to take a step back for myself, which I still didn't really do until, man, really like the last probably 2 or 3 trips out. The 2 of the last 3 trips out is where I did that. And one of those I took up my buddy Will, which was awesome because I know him for several years now. We had a blast up on Champlain and he was excited to get out there. That was only the 3rd time he'd ever been there. So, but he's got a smaller boat now. He had a beautiful bass cat. Now he's got an 18.5 foot Vexus, an aluminum one, which is a great boat, but Champlain it gets ugly. So I was like, just come on out with the nitro. Who's got a barge, man? And like he loves to open. And I was like, we're just gonna fish these rock piles, and they're gonna be scattered everywhere. And I'm tired of staring at that screen. So you can have the front of the boat all day. I'll just fish out of the back of the boat. And we were both like, yeah,
exactly.
So
dude, I love it. I love it. The other cool part about like this guiding idea is that it can be as much or as little as I want, right? So like
exactly.
Once you exceed whatever the costs are for the season, like you can do as many or as few as you want. So if I want to open up 10 trips a season, I open up 10 trips. If I want to do 5 trips, I do 5, you know? So that's one thing that's pretty cool. I can sort of just dabble in it as opposed to like a charter's license or a captain's license where you have to go through 40 hours of school and then you have to go through all these requirements, and it's a huge investment. It's pretty nice. I didn't even know it was an opportunity until a couple of weeks ago, so still looking at it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I still have people asking me like, hey, when are you going to guide New Hampshire? And for a couple of years I was like, I'll get to it. I failed the oral exam twice, passed the written both times, failed the oral both times. And they never tell you why you fail. That's part of their shtick. And they start the exam with the statement, we're not here to trick you. We're not here to stress you. We're just here to test you to ensure that you know all the information, the material we're testing you on. And then when you fail the test, they won't tell you why you failed, because in their exact words, well, if I tell you why you failed, then I'd be giving you the answers. It's like, okay, so again, pick a fucking side of the aisle. Which side you tell me you want to just make sure that I know everything, but then I fail and you won't tell me what I failed on, even though you're going to change the question for the next time anyway. But like, what, I don't know what I don't know. You want me to know everything. I don't know what I don't know. You know what I don't know. Like, which is it? And everything that they do for this is in the name of safety, which 100% behind. I get it. But the problem is that anybody that had a New Hampshire fishing guide license prior to this rule change, which I forget how many years ago it was now, probably 8 or 9 years ago, they're grandfathered in. Even though it expires every year and you have to renew every single year in January 1st, they're considered grandfathered in. They don't have to take the same test, which is complete BS. Like, okay, is it in the name of safety then? Or is it like, how does the grandfather, like, I understand grandfather laws and everything, but how does that apply to this? That doesn't seem right. It just seems like you're just helping the same 5 guys maintain, this easy peasy life because nobody else can get a goddamn license in this state. So I eventually got to the point where I was like, you know what? I can't do this. Not because I don't think I can. Now that I have the right mindset, I'm in a much better spot for knowing what to do and how to better prepare for that test. I know I can pass it the next time I go. I have all the confidence in the world, but I don't want to. I refuse to support the state because I vehemently disagree with everything that they're doing with this. Their complete lack of foresight. No, that's not the right word I'm looking for. I guess just the pig-headed stubbornness of it all, because to be a guide, you have to know literally everything. You need to know everything freshwater and everything saltwater because the guide license allows you to do either. So they expect you to know everything. And that includes knowing everything about trout fishing and everything about fly fishing, which I think is also BS. And I'm supposed to know that because I got quizzed on that. What line weight are you supposed to use for trout in this kind of water? It's like, that's subjective. That's not like a yes or no, right or wrong answer. That's a subjective answer. That's like asking me what's the best jig to throw for smallmouth in early May. There is no one answer. You can't put something like that on a test, but they did. So anyway, like, you have to know all of that when it's like, I will never take anybody out in saltwater. I will never take anybody out for trout fishing. I will never hike into the White Mountain National Forest to take somebody out fly fishing for native brook trout. I will only ever take people out on my big ass, expensive, stable, safe bass boat. That's it. That's the only option I've got. And that's the only thing I'm going to do because that's what I know. So why can't you make another license? And by all means, charge me double. Charge me $200 for the season. And just test me on anything boating related for freshwater. I'll happily pay that. But, don't ask me to know all this crap that's not relevant to what I want to do. You guys are just like, I don't know. They're making it so unnecessarily difficult, and in the end, costing themselves money. If they just split it all up a little bit, they can make more revenue. They can make a lot more revenue.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to support the state. Not to mention we keep losing. We lost another handful of public access points this year that became resident only, that were state owned forever. And so I don't know why my license hasn't gone down, but I keep losing public access points in this state. And meanwhile, I travel out to Vermont and New York, and it's like, wow, literally every body of water has parking for 30 trailers with a toilet, a concrete ramp, and a dock at every single boating access. The best lake in the state of New Hampshire has one free public access point now with parking at the ramp for, I think, 15 trailers, and there's no bathroom, to the best of my knowledge. It's like
New York has phenomenal boat ramps.
New York and Vermont. Like, you don't realize how good it can be until you get out of the state. And it's like, whoa.
Michigan has pretty good. We're pretty lucky too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much is your fishing license for a full year resident?
$26.
Take a guess what New Hampshire is.
$100.
45. I can get a full
That's
year
crazy.
non-resident license cheaper than that in every surrounding state. and almost all of them are better than this state. I would say Mass is probably the worst, or maybe Rhode Island, just because it's so small. There's a lot of reservoirs you're not even supposed to be on anyway. There's a lot of money down there. So like there's just a lot of like private and resident only stuff down there. So that's a tough one. Connecticut, probably 50-50. There's still a lot of public access places out there. There's also a lot of reservoirs too that nobody can go on, so that kind of hinders some things. Mass is both great and bad. My area of Mass, like going straight down south, now that's closer to like Lawrence and the greater Boston area we are technically part of. So it's just so congested, and most of those places are all private. Then you go a little bit west of that, and like all of them are accessible. But then, you go to Maine. Go anywhere you want in Maine. Same with Vermont, same with New York. It's just New Hampshire's strange. But again, all those places, I think the most expensive actually might be Connecticut is 50. Is the only one that's more expensive than New Hampshire. But that's for a non-resident.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Are there a lot of pothole lakes, like glacial bodies of water, small lakes around you?
Yeah, we call them kettle ponds. There's tons of them. There's tons and tons of them. Man, if I had to take a guess, easily over 300, maybe as high as the low 400s for like those smaller bodies of water in the state, just in New Hampshire alone. And then they're all like that 60 to 150 acre kind of little kettle ponds.
They're real small. They're real small.
Yeah. Almost all of those are that small. We only have, 7 bodies of water. I know that there's over 650 public access points, but that's like all inclusive, like real boat ramp and then like just canoe ramp, or canoe access, walk, whatever you can drag through. Just in New Hampshire, over 650. But I think there's only like 7 bodies of water in the state that are over 3,000 acres. And all the rest of them, like the vast majority of them are like 100 to 500 acres. And actually, I would say probably 100 to 300 acres.
The 500 acre point, like a 300 to 500 acre lake, small lake is pretty nice. Like those are the ones that are fun to go out and like you could spend a day fishing in. Yeah, you'll make it around it, but like you can start to dial in patterns and ideas and concepts. Smaller than that's pretty tough.
Smaller than that is both awesome and abysmal. Awesome because you could lap the thing twice in an 8-hour day on your trolling motor, and one way or another you're going to figure them out. More often than not, rarely do they completely shut off. But the only downside is, if one other boat's out there, then it's like, okay, well, we got to like kind of pace ourselves. If there's 2 or 3 other boats out there, it's like, okay, we're stuck here until one of them moves. And as soon as I see one move, then who's going to be the first of the other 3 of us to run over to swap spots with him? And then it just like everybody all kind of moves at the same time. And it's like, oh, you're done? All right, he's already going. Well, let's go over there instead of there because he's going there and that guy can backfill one of these spots.
Yeah, I feel that. Like even those 500 acre lakes, like maybe not 500, but like 500 acre lake, like even that, when you see someone move, it's sort of like, okay, they were on the good spot. But if you find those sneaky holes, like that's fun. Yeah,
and that like towards the end of the summer, that's what I was really trying to focus on. And the drought up here, just awful. Like it other people could figure it out. I couldn't. But again, I know I was trying to fish a lot of history and just like I didn't want to pick up anything but a jig more often than not. So I was hurting myself too. But the drought did not make things easy. It just kind of changed the dynamic of a lot of vegetation around here this year too. So, and it was just strange. But a lot of those places.
That's cool though. Do you have a list of like all these places you want to go?
Or you know what? Actually, not anymore. I didn't even get that far this year for 2024. And every year we like Andrew and I would always talk like all season, especially during the winter, like when things are kind of slow and we're fishing one of the same 10 ponds down in Cape Cod area for 3 months straight. And then now it's like, oh, I can't wait to go here. and then it's like, yeah, we should this time when this weather happens, we should go here. And then we should go here. We should go here. I didn't do that once for 2024. But I do want to do that for this year. And mentally, I have a small list. All of them are in Maine. I want to go to Cabo San, which I have been told by several people is like a mini Champlain. So I'm excited for that. China Lake, which that one gets hammered pretty hard with tournaments. But MLF went up there before like MLF like truly became MLF, like when they were just kind of doing it as like a side gig with KVD and Aaron Martins and all those guys in between all the Bass Nation, the Bassmaster Elite stuff. And they went up there, and I remember Aaron Martins was getting his teeth kicked in, and I can't remember. Was it Marty Stone? Was he one of the original live color commentators? And he was like, I don't know what he's doing over here. He should be out in the middle drop shot, and he's a drop shot master. Like, this place is great for drop shot. What is he doing? And then finally, like midway point, Aaron's like, I'm gonna go out to the middle and drop shot, and he ended up winning. Like, he came back from like 40 or 50 pounds back, I forget, because he was just catching 1 to 2 pounders every friggin' drop. And that was my first, like, I guess kind of vision into what Maine had to offer. So China Lake's always been in the back of my head just for that. And that's not too far from there. Then you got Belgrade's, people call it the Belgrades, which is near Belgrade, Maine. And there's like 15 different ponds that if you got like an Airbnb right in the middle of them, you can hit all of them. They're all within a half an hour of that center point. And every single one of those places, everybody has told me, is phenomenal fishing, which is great because not there isn't any one that is better than the others that gets overpressured. They're all equally good. And they all get like and seemingly an even amount of pressure. So they're all just like phenomenal. So like, I'd love to go up there and bounce around there for a couple of days. That'd be fun.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. So that's the only mental list I have. There is a spot in New York that I've been meaning to go to for the last few years with Derek from Beast Coast, because he was one that told me about it. So I'm going to try and make it a point to go over there with him this year if I can get him to, sneak away from his house for a day, which has been really tough the last 2 years.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I put together a list of like 10 trips I want to take. Not trips necessarily, but like 10 days. Like, these are the bites that I want to hit. Like, these 10 bites.
Any that you're willing to divulge?
No, I mean, like, do largemouth fishing with a jig in the spring. Like, it's that basic. Like, go to the Saginaw Bay and largemouth fish. Yep. Like, go hit the canals or go, I'll run through that list. Where's that?
Yeah. That's the biggest reason why I want to go to Maine, because there's still good smallmouth there, but it's largemouth fishing. And I'm looking forward to getting to new places and getting my groove back and having a bounce back year in my big largemouth.
Yeah, that's the deal. I don't know. Where did I put that list? Maybe I hid it somewhere. I don't know where the heck I put it. Oh, yeah. So, like, end of April, go fish jigs for largemouth. Like, second week of May, go through a jerkbait on the specific lake that I have. Like, end of May, go through a hair jig or a Sydney rig. Like, June, bedfish. There's a inland body of water where you can, like, perspective mode bedfish, or you can go up north and throw a top water. And, like, there's certain bites that I know pretty consistently every year you could just go do. Super easy.
Yeah. Nice.
So,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny when I made that comment about getting back to largemouth, hopefully having a bounce back year. I now have more 7+ pound smallmouth than I do largemouth.
That's crazy. That's a great problem to have.
I only caught one 7-pound largemouth in my life. And that was like something Andrew and I have been chasing hard since 2020 when I caught, because he caught his 7-pound 7-ounce largemouth in 2017. Then I finally caught my 7. It was a 7-pound 5-ounce, same PB as my smallie in 2020. And then we're like, we need an 8. Like, one of us has got to get an 8. And like that was what drove almost all of our decision making the vast majority of the year since the end of 2020. Until we got to this, it's like whatever. Yeah. And specifically going to places and having the mindset and throwing the baits of like trying to catch an 8. And if it was another 7, awesome. And we ran into plenty of 6s, but we never even ran into another 7+. Andrew came close 3 or 4 times with some 610s and 612s. And I caught a 610. That was as close as I got since that 7.5 in September of 2020. So I'm like, I'm really, 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 really hoping that this is a year that I get another 7. I would kill for an 8. Seeing Andrew's nephew catch that 8 in my boat, I was very happy for him, but there was a significant part of me that was like, God damn it. Yeah. I'm fishing my butt off for that.
That's amazing, though. Are there a lot of lakes where you have that potential?
Yeah, I would say yes. There has been, 100% yes. I know for a fact what used to be one of my favorite places that Andrew is positive he lost an 8 at the boat in 2021. One of our other friends, Tyler at Swimbaits Scrutiny, is their channel. They're also based in New Hampshire. He's same pond. Couple of months before that, he was said the same thing. He lost a giant like that right at the boat, and he was like, "I'm positive it was 8." So it had to have been the same fish. The pond down the street from that has kicked out an 8.5 twice in the last 5 years. I know where I caught my 610. Was last year in the spring. Someone caught a low 8, which unfortunately died. It was during a tournament middle of the summer, but like that's not the only 8 that I know that's in there.
Right.
And that's all stuff with like very short drive from my house. And then you go up to the lakes region. Winnipesaukee been kicking out a ton of 7s, and I think a couple of 8s have even shown up. There's a couple of ponds around there that have kicked out a bunch of 7s. I think what the thing with Winnie is the rock bass took over really hard. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I think is roughly right around there. And I think the largemouth kind of finally figured out that we can eat these things. Because in the last, like, especially 3 years, the number of 5, 6, and 7 pound largemouth that have been showing up is like insane out of that lake, just out of Winnie alone. Wait, Oliver caught his PB smallmouth in front of you?
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear this.
Yeah, he was throwing it. So yeah, Oliver, he came up and was fishing with Kobe, and my buddy Tom and I, we were fishing this rock ridge, and they pull up, and Oliver makes one cast with the spark shad. I think it was like a 4-inch blackback spark shad, and he throws it into the sand spot. And we had like sort of figured out where these fish were setting up, and Oliver like hit the right angle, must have, and or 5-inch spark shad. It was a bigger bait, and he was trying to catch him on a big bait, pretty much. Quite often that trip, but yeah, he caught like a giant smallmouth off the sand spot. And we were throwing like the 3.5-inch, 4-inch swim baits, but that 5-inch must have done something. And then, giant fish. I'll never forget that. It was crazy. They rolled up. I don't even think like they had fully dropped the trolling motor when he made that first cast.
Yep.
And then I think Kobe doubled up with him.
That's awesome. Oh man.
Yeah, they started eating the ice slide that day. He was throwing a couple of jerk baits that they were eating. I remember we went back to Tom's house and we started talking big baits for smallmouth because that was the first time I'd ever been introduced to like the big bait thing. This had to be back in like 2017, 16.
Yep.
Long time ago. But that was crazy.
That's something I would, when I go back for more smallmouth for this season, I really want to focus on trying to get more on the bigger baits. And it's funny because Andrew's PB 5.28 smallmouth, and that was on a 5-inch spark shad too. And it was one of our favorite places in Vermont, and we were already cracking them on 2.8 and 3.3-inch Kitex. This was prior to the slow flow being released. And I had just caught like a 4 3/4, and he was like, he was having problems with his reel, and he ended up breaking off, and he was going to retie, and he was like, I'm going to put on the 5-inch spark shad. And like within 5 minutes, he got a 5.26 smallie on that. And then, no, sorry, take that back. It was 5.2. And then a couple hours later on a different rock pile on that same 5-inch spark shad, that's where he caught the 5.26, 5.28, one of those. And it was just crazy. It was awesome.
It's really funny, like looking back at kind of what all transpired with like the spark shad, and that was the first like good small, I call it small swim bait, but like the first good soft body, like not Kitex style swim bait. And then you have all these other ones start to come out, and you see the progression from that, but still like the spark shad and some of the other, I mean, the slow flow is really, really good too, but very interesting that was like the very first introduction I had to the spark shad. I don't even think I'd ever seen it before that.
I can't remember the first time I did see one. Because when Andrew
back
2020, I think.
Yeah. And Kobe and Tom were fishing an Okashira screwhead back then. And I'm like, dude, you guys are throwing an 8-ounce head. Like, that is so small. An 8-ounce head with this. And it's just very interesting to see now where I am today versus like the first time I saw that. And I was like, this is crazy. You're throwing a 7.6 medium light rod. Like,
yep.
just a totally different mindset of fishing and where we're at now versus, almost, 9 years ago.
Yeah, ain't
Crazy.
that the truth? The evolution of it all. It's always really interesting to like take a step back and think back to that point, which is something fishing and personal growth wise, like I am horrible at looking at the journey that I've already traversed. Like I am terrible. And the rare occasion that my wife smacks some sense into me and like whatever's going on in my head, and she's gonna snap me back to reality, and she's like, think back to like where you were 5 years ago and what you're pissing and moaning about now. You couldn't even do 5 years ago, and that both fishing and personal life. But especially fishing, like that growth, like that's insane. There's so much more progression there. Like I wish I could progress as fast as the fishing industry does in a 5-year window.
Yeah. It kind of goes back, and it's funny with Oliver in here, man. I think about like even 9 years ago where I'm at today, right? And I look at what Oliver's done in those 9 years, and you start to think about the guys that are successful, right? It goes back to those same things we talked about. It's not that difficult. Like objectively, it's not that difficult. But when you start to put the pieces together, Oliver and anyone that has made it to be where they're successful, it is about putting those pieces together consistently day in and day out. So it's very interesting. It's kind of like full circle of our conversation.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said it like that. So my parting point, and then I want you to kind of think about this too for your parting point for looking ahead for 2025, like the single biggest thing that covers all the bases. Because for me, I have different ways that I look at things in the sense of like I have one that's very specific to I guess my creativity, and then one that's very specific to me personally, and one's very specific to me professional growth, career wise, etc. Family, like, but then there's this like all encompassing overviewing perspective that is also this kind of mindset that I'm trying to create for myself that kind of helps corral all of that and is that overarching theme for it all, for lack of a better way to put it. And with all of that said, for me for 2025, because I took such a huge step forward in setting the right kind of boundaries that I need to better protect myself and my personal mental health, to separate what I got to do in life from what I want to do in life, that has been very freeing in a number of ways. Like I have not had any anxiety in 6 months after having damn near crippling anxiety for 10 years. That is a significant step. Like that's everything. It's no medication whatsoever. Like it's just fixing my perspective. So because of that, that is allowing me to better see things that I have been just blind to because I never even could think about that. And finally, to the point, I have more people actively supporting me now in everything I do for Real Northern Bass than I've ever had. And that's not to say I didn't have support, but the number of people that are lifting me up, that are actively trying to support me. I mean, the little bit that we talk, I've got you. I've got Jola Barber who called me. I got Oliver and Riley themselves who have called me multiple times, and like, or they have constantly expressed their appreciation for things that I've done to help them. And likewise, I've told them the same thing. The number of things they've done for me, Dan at Ben's Tackle Shack, Derek at Beast Coast, like all these people, and that level of the communication for what they're telling me I have done, even just recently, is like, dude, like, and that's just like inside of the fishing industry world. The amount of support that I have, it's like thinking back to the beginning of the year for 2024. My name is damn it, Oliver. What happens if I give it a real shot? So I got to make it. I've never had this where I've understood what I have, that I have successfully implemented key things to get better balance and peace in my life, to have so many people behind me rooting for me, actively rooting for me to make shit happen, and having the time is the biggest challenge, but I can see the path to create the time I need to really give it a fucking go. So let's fucking go. But that's my 2025. That is the overarching theme and the goal for what I am looking for moving ahead, and I'm going to give it my goddamn damnedest.
I like it.
No other way to put it.
I like it.
So, aside from you wanting to travel more and just continue to fall back in love with fishing for 2025, what else is like, if you had to boil it all down to one thing and maybe more concisely than I am capable of ever?
No, I mean, my thing has always been, or over the last year, has been just really enjoying each moment of it all, right? Like, I did what I wanted to do in 24 because I enjoyed each bit of it. Um, it's funny because I would love to be where I want to be on YouTube, right? I would love to grow on YouTube, but at the same point, like, there's part of me that realizes, like, it's a cool extra thing I do as long as I am still enjoying the process of getting there. Like, I don't know that I have to put extra pressure on myself to do that. But if I wanted to, it's just about consistency. And it's funny because, like, in every other aspect of my life, like work it's all about consistency. Family, it's all about consistency. But then you start to talk about the YouTube thing, and you're like, sort of on the back burner. I've already kind of been through that stage. Like, when I started my YouTube channel, it was like very, very, very consistent. Like, I don't know if I know. I don't know. I don't know if that's my goal this year. It's more so just enjoying it, educating people, continuing to like have fun with the process, and continuing to like build whatever the community wants to be.
Yep.
Because the more time I put like I try to force that consistency, the more I'm like, okay, well, I'm not growing as fast as I wanted to grow, or this isn't happening, or this is like, then I lose that consistency again. So just really enjoying it.
Yep. Yeah. And like that, it's awesome because you've been able to, you've already done it all.
Yeah, I've kind of been there, right? Like, I don't want to say I've been there and done it, but like, I had the shot to go full time and I did it. And I also realized, like, it's kind of nice to have that 9 to 5 that I fall back on and go fish when I like to fish.
Yeah. And that's something that's going to be, that's by far the biggest gating thing. And especially when you throw family into it, like, it's a totally different animal. Like, I have a guaranteed paycheck every single week and it is consistent.
Yeah.
And I can always go and argue for more. I can try and create more to gain more from a content perspective, but there's no guarantee that that's going to pan out, versus I can, more effort I put in at work reflects in my paycheck, whether I get it from my current work or I get it from my next work. And on top of that, I get the health insurance, which my family desperately needs, because my wife's self-employed too, so there is no health insurance from her end. So if I don't work, then like we get nothing. Not that we have nothing. It just becomes exponentially more challenging. Versus if I just continue to work full time and I provide all these benefits for my family, then like, to replace that, dude, you know how much more money I got to make on top, like on YouTube? Because then I have to compensate for what I'm not making for retirement, compensate for what my company's not covering for health insurance and the quality of what that health insurance is. I got to compensate for the difference kind of taxes, because now you get a self-employment tax on top of things versus just being employed by somebody else. So it's like, for me to replace my current salary, or to replace everything that I provide for my family now with my real job, I would have to make 3 times my salary to about break even, after the difference in taxes, after the difference for the health insurance, after still putting away money for savings or for retirement and everything. It's like, I got to make about 3x what I'm making now, and that's not a cheap number. So it's one of those. Still love to see where I can go with it, but I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it if I don't get there.
And that's the thing though, like this season, like just pushing yourself to go and to do all these things, like recognizing where you're at and the support systems you have and the opportunities you have, like what happens. So yeah, I'm here for it.
Yep. And I'm going to enjoy the journey. I don't care about the end result. I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm going to enjoy pushing myself in ways creatively that I've never been able to do. I'm going to enjoy pushing myself to just try to achieve something that I reasonably couldn't, and also, made excuses for in other aspects. That all goes away. And like, let's just give it a shot and enjoy the process regardless.
I love it.
We're going to have fun no matter what. Oliver said it perfect. Aim high, dream big.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, man. I tell you what, I didn't realize what time it was. Every time you and I talk, time flies by. And next thing I know, it's almost 2 hours in. And it's like,
I know. I appreciate it, man. This is so much fun to hop on here. And tonight wasn't so much about fishing, but it was just about like building the mindset for the year. And so I appreciate it, man.
Yep. No, and I'm very, very happy you come on to do this with me, because I don't want this to be 100% fishing, because life isn't that as much as we want it to be. For the vast majority of us, there are some people that 100% of it's fishing. That's awesome. There's so many other aspects about this, and I guess you could even argue that a lot of this goes into, like, I guess, kind of the whole mental health awareness aspect of things. If you wanted to take it down that path a little bit, which you could justifiably and rationally so, that's not the intent. It's just, man, there's so much more that goes into it and behind it all that one way or another we're all dealing with it to some degree. And as much as we try to limit how that impacts our fishing, it absolutely has an impact on our fishing in some fashion. So yeah. I think it is nice that we can cover something like this every once in a while, and just let other people know that maybe not directly saying it earlier, but now directly saying it now. You're not alone if you're struggling.
Dude, we've been through it. I promise you. I promise you. If you think you've been through it, I mean, we've been through it with you. So we're here.
Yep. We're all in the same roller coaster.
We are. Oh, dude, I appreciate the conversation. Thanks for having me on. I know we've been on an hour and 43 minutes, but it's a lot of fun. No,
thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on. Before you go, let everybody know where they can find you and everything, and, you know, look forward to a hell of a lot more. All the new content you have planned for this year, into the new adventures.
Yeah. I have a YouTube channel. It's Benjamin Nowak, or BM Nowak Fishing. And yeah, dude, I'm just going to be around, just posting content, some stuff on Instagram, some stuff on YouTube. So check out over there. It's going to be a lot more focused on the informational piece of it all. Obviously still getting to fish with buddies and still kind of walking through those trips, but focusing more on like how to become a better angler with better mindsets and go and catch more fish.
Oh yeah. Well, I am going to get that Jig Fishing 101 series done 2 years later.
Yeah. Do the first video, leave the first video as it is, and then do like 2 years later. Jig Fishing 102.
And the thing is, like, I went back, and when I realized it, like when it clicked, I was like, holy Christ, that was a year and a half ago now almost. And I went back and watched it start to finish. I was like, she came out really good. I'm not going to change
really that. Good video.
Now I just need to go. And I remember what stopped me from finishing it before was every time I went, like, thought about it and go to do it. The next one is talking about like rods and reels and line stuff. And like every time they've all been in my boat. And I'm like, I'm not going out there to get that. I'll just remember to bring it in next weekend. And then here I am the next week. I'm not going out there to get that.
Here you are 2 years later. Okay, I think we should probably bring this rod in.
Plus side, it's all already in my house right now. So
oh, that's perfect.
I got two things project wise to get done at the house that are like extremely critical before I get like full time back into like going after it with videos, which is good because one of them directly impacts the studio room as it is. You know, nobody can see what's over there behind everything. But home office with my PC, my oldest son's PC, which is my old PC. I just got my youngest son his own PC, which is one of the ones that we won when we had our gaming channel, my buddy Chris and I, from 2009 to 2013. And it's still kicking. They weren't using it, so he just let me have it. I need to run a new breaker, all new heavy-duty wiring, 3 new outlets to spread it up and get all of that crap off of the run that everything else is on. Simultaneously run an outdoor outlet to the side of my house, so I'm not running extension cord from my garage on the opposite side all the way around to my boat. And I'm building that carport finally, which, yeah, it arrived yesterday with it was a 14 by 28. More than enough room for the control.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet, though.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like, even if I trim the motor down, I don't have to, but if I trim the motor down and fold the tongue in, like, dude, I got a mile of room to work around that thing in there now. So, like, I'm excited. The plan is to get that all done this weekend, and then that kind of cleans up this room. I can get back to making some videos in here and fix the boat. Once that's done, back on the water, just enjoy the process. That's
Heck
going to
yeah,
be the theme of the year.
Heck yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Ben, for coming on. I appreciate it, man.
Thank
And for
you.
everybody that's still here, thank you very much. Appreciate you as always. Totally forgot to ask to leave a like at the beginning of the stream. Hopefully y'all did. If not, oh well. There's always next week. So thank you all for watching. Greatly appreciate it. I don't know what we're doing next Wednesday, but we'll be back next Wednesday. So everybody have a great night.
See you.